What is up? We are live. We are joined again by Steve from Fanspeak. How we doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Yeah, we so today our show is going to be about elite offenses, number twos, or just in general how much better or worse they are than the volume you get from the studs on bad offenses, and which route is the best route to go. Uh, I think we both have the same lean on where this is going to lead.
Mm-hmm.
We will see. Like every once in a while, we look into this data and we find things we didn't realize. So
Yeah, and I think we'll get into it. And one of the things with the way you say it is part of the problem is some of these guys are not necessarily the highest volume guys that you'd expect. Like there are guys probably taken below them on better offenses, not necessarily elite ones,
yeah,
that have more projectable volume. I'll wait
absolutely.
till we get into it. It's just sometimes like one problem that we have with fantasy is we do need to separate real life talent from fantasy potential. And like some of these guys on bad teams that we'll talk about, I think they're great talents, but they just don't have the same floor ceiling combo that guys taken either around them or a round or two behind them on better offenses do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say hi to the chat. We have Jamie, we have Nice and Blunt, we have Peanut, we have Peppertoni, and we have Hartman. And we will get into all of that information after the intro.
Hey, we're grinding through the torment. High volume, no management. Taming souls in descent. Grinding drafts through the abyss, no rest in our veins. Feel striking like lightning, flooding endless pains from late season voids. He's dropping all the flames. Best ball, Legion unite, shattering the chains. Old school RB stacking fury, derailing trendy trains. Who is commanding the storm etched in our brains? Who? Hey, thunder in the names, claiming all the kills. Flames, names, games. Legion, wrath of views, stone age torment remains. Best ball eternal in Rumain's infernal domain. Pterodactyl pigs screaming, Cayman chaos reigns. Fossil fury fuels the fire, drafted through the vein.
All right, let me see if no, I'm on the right mic. Do you hear it? Is it weird to you?
No, it sounds pretty good to me.
All right. Just let me know, everybody, if it's being weird. I just haven't talked yet today. I'm probably just not not here.
Hmm.
We have Mufasa um, in here as well. So uh, where do you want to start this? Because so right here, I just have pulled up fantasy points scored. It's a bit like you have an empty room around you.
Maybe it's slightly echoey, but
I mean, my room is empty, but
yeah.
uh, let me log out and log back in real quick, and
Okay.
you can talk through whatever you want real quick.
Yeah. So I'll wait mainly till Williams comes back. But I think having that page that he had up, which obviously it's his channel, so we lose the page. But we want pieces from top offenses. Are there exceptions every year of guys from bad offenses who can still be top 10, top 15, top 20 fantasy guys at their respective positions? 100%. But usually it's like so many things had to break their way for it to occur. The best example is, of course, Trey McBride last year. Literally everything broke his way, including, unfortunately, some bad breaks for other tight ends getting injured or their quarterbacks getting injured. So it created this gap between him and everyone else. Tight end is a little different than some of the other positions, but generally bad offenses are not going to produce many high value fantasy players. There are exceptions, but this is why, and I mentioned this, not sure if you heard it, who aims, this screen is so important because we want as many of our guys coming from these top offenses. Those are going to produce the most fantasy players.
I assume I sound better now. I know what the problem was, and it's the dumbest thing you could think of. It's always the simple thing.
You definitely sound better now.
This is why. I bet it sounds bad now. I just had the mic up here. like instead of down by my face. So
Well-
that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. I have no shame. Like I went in to check it, and whenever I reached up, like I was like, why is that not there? Because I went to flip my mic up. I plugged in my actual stand-up mic. I was going to use it instead. And whenever I went to flip this mic up, it's already up there. I'm like, oh, well, that makes all of it make sense.
That explains everything.
That explains everything. Yeah. You're all welcome for the entertainment. That's free. That's tech issues. I've never seen them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did figure it out though. Like you got to give me like some credit. Not a lot, but some. Uh, uh, but yeah, so this is a pretty cool chart, and I haven't seen this. I hadn't really looked at this yet, but it actually breaks everything down into rushing fantasy points total for the team and receiving, and then fantasy points as a team entirely, and then passing fantasy points. So that's Josh Allen, right?
Yeah.
That's Matt Stafford, right? Like that's what that means. And that's not Josh Allen. That's Josh Allen in the passing.
Arm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is something you got to think about while looking down this. Like the quarterbacks are a little bit of a mix of the two. Also, I was watching a Maddox stream, and he was using this website, and I asked him where it was. It's running backs don't matter. And this is just a chart. Like it's just a chart of offenses, drop back EPA and rushing EPA. There's a lot of things. I haven't played with this yet, but it looks like something fun. I'm going to start getting into this a little bit more. But as you can see, a lot of the names that we have at the top of the other list, they're right there, right?
Yeah.
And they're over here. And then we got the Raiders, we got the Browns, we got the Titans, we got the Jets, we got the Saints. And the four teams that we have in the poll are those four right there.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of clear that the Saints are definitely like they should probably win the poll pretty easily, I would think. Just because they did show a little more. But the other three teams, it should have been these four teams, but I didn't think it's fair putting the Browns against anybody. But like it's wild to see the Vikings this far over.
I mean, what I would love is to isolate the 5 wins games versus the other 12 games.
What were the 5 wins weeks?
I want to say weeks 3,
Let me
4, 5, 6, 7, if I remember right.
Carson Wentz. Three through 8. So we'll go over here. We'll go weeks 3 through 8. Update it. And
it's lower on the rushing side, but the passing side, it at least moves further.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting. And there's a lot of things with that, like with which quarterback was there, which wasn't.
Yeah,
all
and,
of that
and
stuff.
one thing, Wentz didn't throw as many touchdowns, but just his yards, attempts, completion percentage, all those things I know were just way better. And we can obviously look at that. And Justin Jefferson, I'd done the math, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but essentially, if you extrapolate the 5 Wentz games, Justin Jefferson would have had 1,400 plus yards. Like we're talking near the top tier of receivers. Yeah. 0 touchdowns with Wentz, but like 14 plus 100 yards. If he had 17 games of Rosmer McCarthy, he would have had under 900.
So this is something we've discussed on my channel specifically, and it's not that me wanting to pull Jefferson up above CD Lamb has nothing to do, and even James Cook, close to Amon-Ra, but not ahead of Amon-Ra. I get it. Like they were really bad last year, and I don't even think Kyler's that great of a quarterback. But the thing is he's not the 39th best quarterback in the league.
Yeah,
like you don't have to be the elite player to elevate the offense if you have elite players around you.
Well, and it's funny you say 39th best player in the league because that's actually probably Carson Wentz is the 39th best
Yeah.
quarterback. JJ
Yeah,
McCarthy
right.
was maybe the 59th best quarterback.
Yeah, it was really bad. But we'll get on to the actual subject here. And so the Bills here, shockingly, like you wouldn't even think about this, but like let's just sort by receiving fantasy points.
Mhm.
And the Rams, Cowboys, Lions, Bengals shocked nobody.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason that all of these teams have 2 receivers go in the top 4 rounds.
Mhm.
And a lot of these teams also have both receivers go around the same time as a Garrett Wilson, who's an elite player on a bad offense. And that is the crux of what we're talking about here. Like,
Yeah.
should like Garrett Wilson go ahead of Jameson Williams or T. Higgins or Devontae Adams? And currently he's going ahead of 3 of those names, right?
Yeah.
Now, Arizona is up here, but that is wild.
But it shows right there. Look at where their rushing is compared to everyone else that high. You know.
Yeah, their rushing is incredibly low, and it was all in garbage time, or a lot of it was in garbage time.
It was that, but they also no Connor, no Benson. Like they're just not running the football. So that's why Jacoby Brissett, the Cardinals led the league in pass attempts last year. There's no way that's happening again. There's just no way.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we only had 7 teams with over 800 fantasy points at in receiving, and the Patriots are the only one that doesn't have a wide receiver going super high.
Yeah.
They don't even have a running back going super high, really. Like Travion goes late 4th, early 5th. But like this offense, like if we just separate it back out by total fantasy points per game, they were 5th. So this offense, like and like it goes to like part of this, like we'll go back to the receiving thing. Like the Rams, the Cowboys, the Lions, and the Bengals are all incredibly concentrated offenses.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something else as well. Like there's a big difference between a really high offense and one that's concentrated among X amount of players and one that's not as well.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays a role. I do think at times, and to the Jets' point, is people double count that because it's like you can say, "Oh, Garrett Wilson's a clear one. He's gonna, just dominate targets," and he might have like 30, 31, 33% of his team's targets. But if they're not as many targets as most teams, and B, really bad targets, I'll take the guy with 120. I'll take Mike Evans, who year in, year out is getting 120, which is much better quarterback play.
Yeah, I was shocked yesterday. I looked it up on stream. Did you know Kyle Pitts had 118 targets last year?
Yeah. And just real quick with your Patriots point is, like you said, it's one thing also like some of these teams where like the Bills, for instance, like, okay, they don't have a receiver going that high. DJ Moore is getting closer, but still behind Garrett Wilson.
Right.
But at least they have James Cook.
Right.
And Josh Allen, like you pointed out, he gets a lot of those rushing points as well. So quarterback wise, but it is wild, absolutely wild. We have 2 Jets going before a single Patriots player. Like these offenses are not in the same ballpark.
Yeah. If we go to total fantasy points per game, Patriots are 5th and the Jets are 29th. Now, the situation is completely different with the Jets. I'm a believer that the Jets will improve pretty significantly this year on offense because of, like, I think their offensive line was solid and their quarterback play was beyond, like, the Vikings were the only team that had worse quarterback play probably last year than the Jets. That includes the Browns. Like I'm not a Shedeur fan, but I would probably say that he was better than what they rolled out for most of the season.
Yeah.
Like the mix of him and Dylan Gabriel. Yeah. And Goff gets no love, says Peanut. Not really. Like they continually, like, just how many, like, let's go look it up. He gets close to 40 touchdowns like every year, right?
Yeah, for the last 4 years, he's gone between I think 29 and 37 touchdowns.
Over 30 for
Yeah.
the last 3. So 29, 30, 37, 34, right?
Yeah.
So you lock in almost 2 touchdowns a game, right?
hmm
Like almost every week, he's going to give you 2 touchdowns.
And in the low of 4,400 yards. So essentially 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns. Let's just say that that's like the baseline. That's,
Right.
if he's playing 17 games, that's the central minimum of what we should expect. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, 17 fantasy points a game. I know a quarterback isn't like elite, but like he's going after a quarterback 14, which is the lowest that he's been. And yes, it's a new offensive coordinator, and this year was with Ben Johnson, and then this year wasn't. But like, if he's just 17 points a game, like that's perfectly fine. I think he's going as like quarterback 18 or something in best ball right now.
Well, and the other thing that I've pointed out, and this chart shows it, or the fantasy points shows it. The Lions last year, their rushing points 328. They just lost Dave Montgomery.
Yep.
They had 21 rushing touchdowns last year. Jameer Gibbs is not getting 21 rushing touchdowns. And I don't know if Pacheco is going to fill in that gap. So if there's a year for Goff to throw 40 touchdowns, it's probably this year.
Yeah. And like they also have Tesla, who I'm not a big fan. Like I love Tesla as a player. I just don't not know about him in fantasy. But like Laporta was hurt half of last season. Tesla started to come on, and they lost Montgomery. Like I do think that they could turn it over into more of a passing game. They've also already talking about splitting out Jameer Gibbs a little more often.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think they may just be a pass heavy team next year, like just all inclusive.
I agree. Like I think Gibbs will obviously still get his, but
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be much more than what we saw last year. I think he's kind of tapped out from a rushing side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Goff is one of the better values out there because of, like you said, where he's going is in like the late teens, and he can easily be between quarterback 10 and 13 pretty easily.
Yeah. Coolers here says, around QB 11 in raw points and points per game. Drafted as QB 16 or 17, definitely value. Also top 3 in passing props. Absolutely. Like he's one of the guys. I think I'm around 12% on him. So Peppertoni asked how many spike weeks. I know he had at least 3. I know that he won me money in week 2 last year. Yeah. So he had a big spike week, 34 points in week 2. He has 24, which is fine. He has a 25 and a 26. Like I consider, and a 25. So he had 1, 2, 3. Like if you consider 25, he had 3 of those. And then he had a 34. So like, yeah, he doesn't have the big spike weeks, but like, I think last year, like he had less than he has before. Because I believe the year before he had several spike weeks.
I think he had more like 6 or 7 this year.
Yeah. So the year before, this was with Ben Johnson, by the way, and the offensive coordinator that they had last year is gone. So it might improve. But he had 1, 2, he had a 41, he had a 34. Then he had even higher on the average, like his average regular spike week. That was 27, 25, 25, 25. And then a bunch of 23, like a couple 23s in there too. So, like this year he had what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 25 plus point games. 2 of them were over 35 points, I think it was. Almost over 34 points, and then another one at 23. So like, it's not that he doesn't have the ability, and if they do morph more into like a passing offense, I think it's going to look a lot more like this than it did last year.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's also, we're not saying Jared Goff's going to be QB1. We're saying he's going to be QB10, and
Well,
you're just getting good value.
to me, and this kind of goes to my point, and I know you're very heavy on the 3 quarterback stuff, but like I think the 3 quarterback is probably the best way to do it. I just don't think if the room is overdrafting them, you should sacrifice everything to make sure you get a third. And
Yeah.
that's a structural thing that we could agree or disagree with. But like if I have a Drake May and I add Jared Goff, I'm very comfortable stopping if I need to. Now, if Bryce Young is stacked and makes it to ADP, I'm perfectly fine, like taking him as well, or
Mhm.
Stroud or whoever, right? Cam Ward. Like I'm perfectly fine adding in those situations, but I'm not going to push it up either because I think that like although Jared Goff does have some spike weeks, his floor is incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're just going to get a lot of 15 to 19 point games for sure.
Yeah,
And
this is
and
exactly what Pepper Honey's saying. A
and
solid floor is something else. It's another value.
yeah, and it's also like for the other thing with it is for a guy who has, you know, 3 weapons go in the top 42 picks, and then a tight end that goes even above him as well. Like you can backstack, like many of these other guys who have multiple weapons going early, like the Cowboys, like you have to get Dak by 80 now.
Well,
You can get Goff 30
right.
picks later.
Yeah, so this year with Jared Goff reminds me exactly of Brock Purdy. I think it was this year, 2023. He was going like there was some uncertainty about him, but like Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle were all going before round 6.
Mhm.
And like he just had this incredible floor here.
Yeah.
Like how many games under 15 points through the whole season? 1,
2, 3,
2.
4.
Yeah.
But I mean, 2 of those were 14-point games.
Yeah. Yeah. So 4 of them, 2 of them are 14-point games.
Yeah.
And like he had 1, 2, 3. He only had 3 25 or 4 or yeah, he had 4 25-point games, but a ton of 20s.
Yeah.
And like I think this is like the floor of what we're going to get because this was Purdy learning how to play as well. Like because this is
Mhm.
only like his second year. Jared Goff is a seasoned pro. Like I think it'll be like this, but even stronger. It's kind of where I think Jared Goff will be this
Well,
year.
and with the what I was going to say is this also shows like put a quarterback in a great offense, with a great coach, great offensive mind, great weapons, and good things generally are going to happen. Do we think Brock Purdy or Jared Goff or even Matt Stafford are a top 3, top 5 quarterback in this league? No, I would say none of them are.
Right.
I know Stafford was a first overall pick, but he had some big years with Calvin Johnson, but he's never like, nobody would ever confuse him with Patrick Mahomes, with Tom Brady, like the Peyton Mannings even. But put him with Sean McVay and give him weapons like Puka and Devontae Adams, and yeah, big things are going to happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, he is a great quarterback, but like there's a lot more. Like he's very cerebral, which which is exactly like what's funny is like this all comes down to the perfect trade for both teams was the Jared Goff and Matt Stafford trade. Like people will say that the Rams won that trade because they won a Super Bowl. I'm fine with that argument if you want to make it. At the time, and I still kind of believe, like, I believe I believe it was very fair at the end of the day. I was always on the Jared Goff side though, because like he took they took a team that was not good into a team that was very good. But they also got surrounded by weapons. And speaking about Jared Goff though, like we go to last year's fantasy points, and it's actually Stafford and Goff. Those two were number 1 and 2 in passing fantasy points last year.
Yeah.
Now, neither one of them run at all, just like Dallas. And the Joe Burrow doesn't run a lot. He runs a little, but not a lot. So the top 4 are basically just pocket passers.
Yeah.
And passing fantasy points. but these offenses are all very good. And Stafford goes a few picks before Goff, but I think there's more questions about the Rams than there are about the Lions right now. And the Rams have less like I guess they have about the same amount of weapons going, but I think both of these offenses are insanely high, and I would be shocked if either one of them end the season with less than like 33 touchdowns, without injury, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think the issue is like Stafford. It just they ran so pure last year. Stafford not only dominated touchdowns by a wide margin, he also led the league in yards. Like the Cowboys had more total yards, but Joe Milton came in a couple games, that Denver game and the final game of the year. So Stafford led the league in yards, dominated touchdowns. And it's more likely it's just, the issue with the Rams is like, what if they're third in those categories? Or, should we still be taking Buka where he's going, et cetera? But
right. Yeah. And like Almond-Ra is one of my biggest stands right now as well. I have like 14 to 15%. I don't know the exact number, but between 14 and 15% right now. And the Cowboys, like I'm having a hard time buying in this year, but like the statistics look great. Like they really do. They have two wide receivers that go like of these top four offenses, they have two wide receivers that go in the basically first two rounds. None of the other teams have that. So I think it'll be harder for them to pay off. But like Dak also goes like a round and a half, if not 2 rounds before Goff and Stafford. And like Joe Burrow, who didn't score with them, which Joe Burrow also like this is the Bengals as a whole, right? This is not just Joe Burrow. And with Flacco and the really bad week, who was the
Jake Browning?
Jake Browning played 3 weeks,
3.5 weeks, I think. Yeah, maybe 4.
Yeah,
it might have been 4. It was bad,
but like
it was really bad.
They basically had no points in those weeks, and this offense still had 300 fantasy points. And Detroit was number 2 with 311, and that was with 4 weeks of Jake Browning. So like you could pretty easily project. I didn't know Jake Browning's on the Bucks, by the way, but you can pretty easily project them to just be the number 1 passing offense, like pretty easy.
Yeah, no,
So in those 4 games, he had a 22 and a 20-point game, and then a 5 and a 7.
And those were all just garbage time, those 2 games. And he had a rushing touchdown, which also, not helping any of the receivers that we actually drafted.
Yeah, so he had a 241, 140, 125, and 251 point or yardage games. This game was just all garbage time.
Yeah.
And then the Jacksonville game, he came in and like he hit Chase down the sideline on like the only actual throw he made the whole season. If I remember right. And like Jamar did Jamar things and got in the end zone, if I remember right.
Yeah. And the other thing with it, and I know this from Chase Brown, which we'll get into, but it also shows like Bengals are a perfect example because we see the difference between an average quarterback, Joe Flacco, and then a great quarterback, Joe Burrow. And Chase Brown, his worst 4 games were the 4 games with Jake Browning. He had over 10 fantasy points in every single other game.
So he had 8.5, 6, and this is full PPR, not half points. So that would be under on all these 10, 11. Now the first game with Flacco, it looks like he was under, but then he was over the rest of them.
And, just completely different. And I know T. Higgins was the same thing. Like just big gaps between what they did with Browning, then Flacco, and then Burrow. And that's why the Bengals offense is a good like test for this because,
right.
We just saw 3 different quarterbacks do 3 different things. And that's why I am Chase over Puka, because a lot went wrong for the Bengals last year. And like if things are even between the Rams and Bengals, yeah, give me Chase over Puka.
Yeah, I mean, Puka did have in half-point PPR 4 more fantasy points, like almost 4 full fantasy points, 3.8 or 3.7 more. But like their offense also had how many more touchdowns was that? 46 to 36, so 10 more touchdowns. So like if Jamar gets an extra 3 touchdowns, that's 1 point a game there. And I would expect if they had 10 more touchdowns, that Jamar would have a third of them or something.
Yeah. Well, it was also like Higgins missed 1 game, Devontae Adams missed 3.5 games, so we
Right.
saw Puka in the playoff run without Adams had his best games of the year.
Oh, well, once Adams missed those games, even when Adams came back, like they finally were like, oh yeah, we can use Puka in the red zone. Who would have thought the guy who gets open in all situations, like can actually get open in the end zone as well? Like who would have ever thought that, So, but we spent some time looking up here at the top. Let's go to the bottom and let's look at what we have. So here, for a comparison to everybody, the Bills average, and this is for audio listeners, fantasy points per game in total. Bills 52.0, Los Angeles Rams 51.1, Lions 49.2, Cowboys 48.9, Patriots 48.5, Bears 46.6, Colts 46.3. And then there's a 1.5 gap, and there's a few teams there.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the bottom, like the worst team, the Raiders last year, fantasy points per game. This is fantasy points, not real points. 30.8. Like
21-point difference from the Bills.
Yeah, 21-point difference from the Bills. And from the top 7, which that's still we stopped at 46.3. That's a 16-point or 16 or 15-point difference. Then the Browns, 32 fantasy points, 32.6 for the Browns and Titans. I would expect if we were to separate this out by the last few weeks as well, that the Titans would look a little better. Yeah. Because once Callahan left, I do think that their stuff started looking a little better. After a couple of weeks, like once the replacement coaching staff got in there and got things going a little bit, I do think it looked a little better there. The Jets had 34.4, and the Vikings, as we were discussing earlier, 35.1 fantasy points a game. With all of those weapons, that is wild.
Well, yeah. I mean, and what's crazy is that still had 5 games of Carson Wentz where they were clearly better in those games.
How many fantasy points do we think Kirk Cousins adds to the Raiders? I think Linderbaum adds probably more, or as many.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough to isolate just one thing because it's a new coach that alone. I mean, we've talked about how bad the Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll team was last year.
Yeah.
So that alone, that's probably the biggest ad. And then, like you said, Linderbaum. They also, and sure, a lot of teams we can point to injuries, but Colton Miller missed 12 games. Jackson Powers Johnson missed 9 or I think 10 games. That's probably the 2 best offensive linemen missed over 2/3 of the season. Ideally those guys are better. Of course, Brock missed a significant amount of time. So none of these things helped last year. Ideally, these are all better. They're deeper. And it's not going to be it's not just Cousins. They're going to have Mendoza. I mean, Mendoza, whether it's for 5 games or 10 games, is probably going to be a better upgrade. So I just think across the board, and that's why I said Cousins is just such a great insurance policy for this offense.
Yeah, and Pepper Tony's saying Jets are undraftable by the metric. Now, if they were to run back these same numbers, absolutely. Within all of this, my biggest point, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is because it's like you still need to project who the bottom offenses are each year, right?
Mhm.
If you can avoid the bottom offenses, and I think that the Dolphins have a very high chance to be in one of those, so I'm semi fading them. Like I'll probably have at most like a 6% on any of the players on the Dolphins, most likely, probably, like just because I'm scared to fade Achane at single week stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, and other than that, I'm going to have very little. Now, the real test is like now you have to guess which teams fall because every year, some team that was okay on offense
Mhm.
falls to nothing. Could that be randomly the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Could that be the Seahawks? Like, I doubt it, but like, what if it's the Giants, right? Like the Giants had the 12th most fantasy points last
Mhm.
year. It could just be a lot of these names down here. It could be the Texans. Like the Texans have some fear in what they're doing. I'm a believer in them, but like I'm a believer in basically just Demont and Nico, and I
Mhm.
think Schultz is underrated as well. I actually my surprise one is the Bucks. I don't know. Like I don't have a good reason for why I feel this way, but you know how sometimes you just have a feeling and you don't like nothing makes sense, but you still feel that way.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the Bucks. Like losing Evans, like the team's heart is gone. All the stuff from the coaches are now like they brought in Kenneth Gainwell after talking up Bucky, like, and then they have like I just get this feeling that it might just be a mess there all season.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and like I don't have a good reason, like I don't have a good statistical path for this at all. It just feels messy. Like I don't
Mhm.
know. Like now they could be a top 10 offense again. That is absolutely true. Like I think that I think the Bucks are the biggest boom bust team this year. Like
I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, my thing with the Bucks, like I think on the positive side, even losing, I mean Evans is obviously on the negative side, but they should hopefully be healthier. Every receiver was injured last year, including Mbuka, who didn't miss time, but he was clearly banged up. And Baker was banged up, Bucky banged up. You know, just down the line, and multiple offensive linemen.
yeah.
And the other
The
big,
offensive lineman thing is something that like I hadn't like I looked into it. Somebody mentioned it. I knew that some of them were hurt. I didn't realize how much
yeah.
that had happened last year.
And the other thing is, I do think Zach Robinson is a positive.
I agree.
Clearly an upgrade. I think fairly clearly an upgrade, but they are more boom bust just because Baker is, I think himself boom bust. Like
He is.
when it's all clicking right, Baker can be up there with anyone. But when things start going wrong, he doesn't have, like, he's not Josh Allen. He's not going to start taking it on his own and
Right.
winning games that way. For me, the one I'm going to pull a couple teams higher, and this is a risk because we're taking 101, Bijan Robinson, the Falcons. I mean, this is a team they're relying on Tua and Michael Penix, after three ACL tears in 5 years or 6 years.
There they are.
They lost their offense coordinator. I've never been a Kevin Stefanski fan, and part of the reason is where did the Browns rate on this list? Not just this past year, but in basically the entire stuff with Kevin Stefanski time.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Like, do you not give any pass for the Deshaun Watson debacle? Because wasn't he like the entire time he was there, they were like they went out and made that, and then they did the extension, and then they just never had money.
Well, I mean, he had Baker his first 2 years, I think.
Right. I mean, which was bad. Like, I don't know, like, if that was and maybe you remember, like, was that a Stefanski didn't want him thing, or was that a GM trying to, like, do so? Because Baker was looked at as underwhelming at that point in the career, right?
Yeah. I mean, clearly Baker has thrown plenty of shade at Kevin Stefanski on Twitter.
Right.
So
yeah,
I don't think they got along. And at the same time, the Browns also had Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, like they had, and of course Nick Chubb. They had weapons galore, and their offense never finished high. We saw like little little runs where like that Joe Flacco year where they made the playoffs and Kevin Stefanski won his second coach of the year, but it's like that was just not sustainable. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying Kevin Stefanski is like truly the worst coach of all time, and he might be a better offensive mind than just, but it's just for a guy who everyone hypes the 2 Coach of the Year awards. There's just not a lot there, you know.
Yeah,
And,
I'm kind of I believe that they'll have an excellent running game because I
Yeah.
believe Bijan is a better, like, no offense to Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb was fantastic, but Nick Chubb is not Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's just not, like, because he doesn't have the receiving profile as well. So like I do worry a little bit about the passing game on the Falcons. And like if we look at this list here, like the receiving on the Falcons last year was only 650 and their rushing was 313.
Yeah.
So like if we sort by this list, the Falcons were 13th in rushing and they were 23rd in receiving. So now do you think that like Tua is an upgrade or not? Like what?
Yeah, I think that's the other thing for me is I mean last year was really bad for the Browns quarterbacks, but is Tua better than Joe Flacco? Is he better than Jacoby Brissett? Like some of these other quarterbacks that Stefanski had to have because Deshaun Watson was either suspended or injured.
Yeah.
You know, better than Jameis Winston, you know, maybe. So what I will say, and this is also part of the overall conversation, is running backs, especially running backs who can maintain a touchdown role and get a good chunk of passing, are more insulated from just bad offense and bad quarterback play. A-Chain being the perfect example last year. And even Bijan. I mean, Falcons were not a good offense. And, you know, I think it's easier for Bijan to be so successful than Drake London. I like Drake London a lot, but he's going to be far more reliant on the level of quarterback play.
Absolutely. And but like trying to figure out who these offenses are that are going to be bottom 5 is a big deal in like how you become successful at this, because like the more of the bad plays you can fade, like, because we're going to get into this and like, we'll just talk about the Browns because Quinshon Judkins number one, they don't even have a receiver, or like Harold Fannin is drafted as the 5th tight end, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And Quinshon Judkins goes in a range with other starting running backs that are in more of timeshares, but on better offenses.
Yeah.
And like that is kind of the exact conversation that we are looking to have. And if you think the Browns are going to elevate their offense and get to like 23rd, 24th, Judkins may be better than some of these plays, but he also may not be. Because like one of them, and we're both big fans of this player, is DeAndre Swift, right?
Exactly.
So everybody thinks that like Ben Johnson runs the ball. The Bears last year had the 4th most rushing points fantasy wise than anyone else. And then the Browns, because they were so far down the list, or their offense is so bad, like they were 27th. Now they had 225 total points. So I'm going to guess that Judkins had at least 2/3 of those, though, right?
I actually don't think, because he missed the last like 4 or 5 games.
Oh yeah, he did miss all that time. So like,
I guess it was just 3 games, but
well, I mean, if we could separate that out as well. So he had 12.1 fantasy points per game last year. And if we go to Swift and we just check out his, and this is full PPR, and he only had 26 receptions. Swift will have more than that, so you can alter a little bit there as well. Didn't Judkins' leg explode? Why is he drafted so high? Like, there's many such cases. So the Swift 14.3
Mhm.
with only a few more receptions, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's because the touchdowns, right? He has touchdowns that he had 10 touchdowns and he had 7. But that's a point per game, and Swift did play 2 more games as well. So you can remove one of those. So it was basically like 9 to 7. But looking at that, like we assume we know that the Bears are going to have a solid offense again, right? Like we're pretty positive. The
Oh.
Bears have 4 players drafted in the 4th and 5th round.
Yeah.
And I guess Swift's in the 6th now for whatever reason. He almost fell to me a 70 yesterday. I got him a 6. I got him 68 in the lobby. Okay.
Yeah.
But like, and then let's go look at Manungai, who goes much later. Like, I'm gonna guess that Manungai has something about like 8 or 9 fantasy points a game, something like that. I'm just guessing. Like, I don't know. What's your guess? Or do you
I'll
know?
say 10.
8.6.
Okay.
So, and he played all 17 games.
Yeah.
And Judkins was at what, 10? 12. He was at
12.
12. So, like, you have 2 backs here that have a total of 22 fantasy points per game, right? Between Swift, 14 and 8.6. So, like, it was basically 22.9 fantasy points a game. And then in that backfield. And I bet, like, if we go and look at the spike weeks too, like, so Manungai doesn't really have spikes, right? Like he got some touchdowns and he got yards every week. He got a 17-point game here. He has 10-point game. He has 20. He did have a 22-point game here.
That was the Swift missing game.
Yeah, and Cincinnati. So,
but he did later in the year against the Eagles. You know, he had 19 points there,
and then another 12-point game and 11-point game. So, like, those are fine. Like, these are really good. Like, if you're building a 0 RB team and you need somebody to like get you some points every week to get to your rookies to smash, Manungai kind of fits in that.
One thing I want to say about Manungai is also keep in mind he was a 7th round rookie. Look at those first 6 weeks; he was barely playing, and we just see his usage, his snap share goes up and up, and
right
in the first 6 weeks, what one game or for first 5 weeks, one game of more
0 over 35%.
Yeah. But after that, it's essentially every week is 35%, if not 40, 45%, 50. And,
right.
We should expect more week 7 on from Manungai.
And like he had 8.9 fantasy points a game. And his first 4 weeks was 2.1, 4.6, 3.0, 1.8. And then the week after the bye was 5.4 as well. So like that's like you remove those 5 weeks, like that's probably 12 points a game, right?
It's at least over 10. I mean, I don't know if it gets up to 12, but yeah, 10, 11, somewhere in that ballpark.
Right. I mean,
he was super consistent at that point.
I'll do the math real quick.
Okay. And I think that's something to keep in mind with Manungai and where QJ, he missed the first game. But once he literally hit the ground running with the Browns, and it was just he was the offense last year. And there's just no guarantee he can monopolize it as much as he did, because what if they, starts playing the role a little bit more, not giving him the direct snaps. I mean, I think he had 3 touchdowns on direct snaps, Quinton Judkins, and those might not be available.
Yeah, they really might not.
So,
all right, almost there. Just got to count up these weeks. Yeah, it was over. It was almost exactly 10 points. 146 divided by 14.
Yeah.
10.49. So after those weeks, and that includes the 2 playoff weeks, so like you can use that if you want. I don't think the fantasy points data suite cares about postseason. So like the fantasy point stuff doesn't add in the playoff stuff. So, but like, so Benun guy had 10 points a week, which was close to where Judkins was. And you got to remember, like, that one game in London, I think it was London, he got 3 touchdowns, but they started with the ball within like the 15-yard line 3 times. He only had 88 yards or whatever that game, and he had 3 touchdowns, I believe.
The Judkins?
Yeah.
I think that was the Dolphins game, but if I remember.
Yeah,
right.
and yeah, because it was one of those, everybody was talking about how big of a smash he was. I played the shit out of him in fantasy, and he got there, but it was because of the defense. It wasn't because of the offense. It wasn't because of the bad Miami defense, which is what the bet was.
Yeah.
It was because their defense destroyed, and he only had 84 yards, but he got 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And if they would have been able to actually move the ball that week, and if they were a good offense, he would have had another 5 points. Easy.
Yeah, I mean, he had 25 carries that game, 84 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it was like he got there in fantasy. He was number 4 that week, but like it wasn't a great week.
No.
And then we look at DeAndre Swift, and like we'll go back to Judkins here in a minute, but we're going to look for spike weeks now. Like over 20 points, and this is full PPR, just so you're aware. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 over 20, and then a 16, 15.1, 14.8, and a 17. So that's pretty solid for somebody.
Yeah, for where he's going. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then Judkins, he had that one big week, the 26. He had a 21. He had a 16. He had a 16, a 16 there, right? But like his lows are way lower too.
Yeah.
He has a 3.6. He has a 4.7. He has a 4.7. He has a 5.9. He has 9.4. When you go to Swift's lowest game on the season, it was 7.6 in the Rams in the playoffs, a 5.8 in the Detroit game, which was easily his lowest. But then everything else is like over 9.
Yeah, just that Steeler game.
9, 9, and 9.5.
The Steeler game, he had 1.9, but that.
Yeah, I remember that.
He got banged up in that game and left it early. I mean, he still played 44%, but it also contributed to it.
Yeah, so he had a couple 9-point games, which not something you want, but it's not 0, right?
Yeah.
But like purely not usable weeks, he only had 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Judkins basically had 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, and he had a bunch that were just barely usable.
Yeah.
And like he had 1, 2, 3, 4 more games that was like exactly 10 points in full PPR. So in half point PPR, and in those games he had 3 receptions, he had 2 receptions, he had 5 receptions in one of those. So like, I mean, it all comes down to like their offense was really bad because of the offensive line, mostly, and quarterback play, right?
Yeah. And I think the other thing with Judkins, which I say just from similar to what I said about the Patriots Jets, is why are 2 Browns going ahead of a single Steeler? And, I mean, their Steelers offense was way better last year, and they got a major quarterback upgrade. They got a receiver upgrade.
Yeah.
You know, assuming Aaron Rodgers comes back, I don't think anyone can tell me. I mean, Rico Dowdle outproduced Judkins last year, playing half the year on a bad offense. Carolina was not a good offense, and yet Rico Dowdle, was a far better running back last year.
Let's get to the chat here. Paul says Swift is most owned player. Yeah. He's like, I'm not taking gigantic stands. I just have a bunch of players like over 13% is where I'm at. But Swift, I'm like right there. Bears were rarely up at the end of games. Could be used as an argument to expect their offense to be better. Correct. Houston could easily be bottom ranked offense again this year. Yeah, we touched on this earlier. I'm not sure if you're commenting on that. Because like I was like they're a scary, like I believe that Demont and Nico are really good picks, but that offense, like that offensive line was not good, and they could easily, like their defense is going to be great again. And
I mean, the
like,
one thing I'll say to that, like these stats are only showing offense production. They're not showing special teams touchdowns, defensive touchdowns. So like for the Patriots score more points, but they had multiple defensive touchdowns, multiple special teams touchdowns.
I was just playing around over here on running backs don't matter earlier, and I figured you'd find this funny. They have a luck stat, and I clicked on it, and I assumed that the Jets would be at the bottom because they had 0 turnovers. They were not. The Saints were. Like I don't know how. Like I don't even know what this metric does. Fumble recovery percentage, fumbles, third down conversions, trips. So like I don't know. I just thought it would be a lock that the Jets would be at the bottom there.
Well, this is on the offensive side. Jets definitely had offensive turnovers.
Oh, was that just offensive side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're not at the bottom
not
here.
at the bottom.
Well, they're even better. They're even better here, apparently.
They were pretty lucky.
Yeah, they were very lucky, apparently,
I mean,
to have 0 turnovers.
The Patriots could have been that much better. I don't know.
Yeah, first day I've used that site.
Yeah,
I'd have you used that before?
I'm not.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, never used it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the kind of thing we were wanting to discuss. Like, look at these elite offenses. Look at like Judkins is going ahead of both of those, or ahead of both of those running backs. And you could argue that like what Peanut's saying here, like Manungai probably is the one that actually benefits the most if they are ahead a lot. I would think they would both benefit, but I would think Manungai would benefit even more.
Oh yeah, he's probably got to close out games.
Yeah, exactly. So because he's the bigger back, all of that stuff. What else exactly? Which team do you want to attack next? Like which player, which team, which combination?
I mean, to me, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Jets because the fact that we're taking, you talked about can 2 Cowboys receivers pay off in the first 2 rounds. Someone explain to me how 2 Jets pay off in the top 40 picks. I don't care if they're better. Like they have to be really better because very few other offenses, the only other offenses that have at least 2 skill guys going in the top 40 picks are elite offenses.
So let's go. We'll go to this sheet for a minute. Now let's just look at things real quick. And so Garrett Wilson is going as like what, wide receiver 17?
17, like that? I think something like that. Yeah.
Well, he finished wide receiver 16 last year in points per game.
Mm-hmm.
If we go to Breece Hall, like I haven't looked at this. So Breece is going as running back 23. Or that's not where he's going. That's where he finished last year in points per game. So like if that offense improves somewhat, like they're the only 2 players on the offense at the moment. So they're going to get all of the targets. The quarterback play is going to be better. I think that they're going to improve by 20+%. Like I really do. Like
so
they had 0 QB play.
So a couple of things, like Garrett Wilson last year, obviously it was a small sample. He missed half the year. But I don't think he had a single game above 20 points. So he had like 3 19-point games. But I don't think he, cracked that 20-point mark. And so this is part of it is like your ceiling he doesn't have the same ceiling. Like I think he's fairly safe to be a top 20, 25 receiver. But I just don't know if he has, like the other receivers around him all have ceilings, just much higher ceilings.
I know Peppertoni hates Geno Smith, so.
And like, I think they can be better. I mean, what's 10, 20%. The other thing, Garrett Wilson's, he's never had more than 7 touchdowns in a year.
I do know that.
And And that was with Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago. And it's just, maybe he would have last year. I think he had I think he had 4 through, 8.5 games. So he was kind of trending for it, but it wasn't like a lock, a stone cold lock.
Right.
And I guess I just struggle with that. Like, I don't think he's a bad receiver. It's just, the other receivers that he goes around, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Jameson Williams, T. Higgins goes right around there. They all just have way higher upsides, both from a total and per game basis.
All right. Well, this is not working, so it's not refreshing for whatever reason. So if you could bring up the points, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think that the website's just not working at the moment.
So I'll bring up Fantasy Pros because then we can look at the half point PPR.
Yeah.
And give me a second.
I usually just do the math in my head whenever I'm looking at it. Yeah, I think Player Profiler is just down at the moment. So.
Yeah, it seems to be. I tried that as well. That's not working.
Blue Blood here says Texans are tricky because if you really look at the depth chart, they have guys in every spot. Schrags, Daniel Jeremiah did a mock. They had a hard time even finding a position. Like, the position they need is offensive line.
Yeah. I can tell what the position is.
Like, there's 2 positions they could upgrade. They could trade everything and go up and get Jeremiah Love, which I think would be the wrong choice, but it would be a fun choice. But they could also, like, trade both of those picks to move up to get the guy they want for their offensive line.
Yeah.
I think that that's something that's, like, very possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you can't share that, by the way.
Okay.
If you have you ever shared on another screen?
Yeah, let me. Yeah. So I sorted it by points per game, and that's why Garrett Wilson is 16. But see, he actually played 7 games. I don't know why I thought it was 9. 19, 7, 19.4, and this is half point PPR, 17.2, 16.1, 2.8. He got injured, had the bye, came back, had a 0, and it was about somewhere in the second quarter they got injured in this game after the bye. And the 2.8, that was that London game where Fields was just so god awful.
Yeah, he was.
But the other thing is, so if you remember, the first game was the Steeler game. That was a back and forth game. But these other games that he did well, I can't remember the exact order. I want to say it was like Dallas. I know Miami was 1, and Carolina. But they were all garbage time. And yes, garbage time matters. But you just can't say every week you're going to get garbage time production.
No,
like
that's the entire Arizona Cardinals thing this year.
Exactly.
We both believed that their offense was on they were let to score points last year. It wasn't that they were good. They just chucked the ball a lot and they played against a lot of prevent. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe that's not how it was. But I haven't went back and looked to see what coverages they played against in the second half of every week or whatever. But
yeah.
It definitely felt like that in that Rams game that they played.
Oh, for sure. A couple of those games there.
Yeah. So we will get back over here. You can keep that up. And then if you want to share something, just say something because I don't have Fantasy Pros. But here's Garrett Wilson's stats for last year.
You don't have it shared right now, just letting you know.
I don't. I do not. I clicked add to Sage. It did not. So his ADOT was only 9.7. He had air yard 46% which is a lot. But he was the only player on that team. And I get it. We're looking at these offenses and which offenses can actually transcend into something great. And why are these players going so high?
Yeah.
And he's not spiking. It is something that does that is kind of a big deal. But it's very hard. You alluded to this earlier. It's really hard for a wide receiver to spike when the quarterback play is not there. You were talking about that with Drake London.
Mhm.
Like, would you say, like, I know the Peppertoni's not a Geno fan, but like, would you say that Geno Smith is a massive upgrade from what they had last year?
I just, I guess I kind of wonder what Geno Smith we're getting. Like, do I think Geno Smith's better than what they had last year? Yes, and better what Geno was last year. Yeah, he would have to be. But we've seen a lot of different versions of Geno in his career, and that 1 year, his first year, like full-time starter in Seattle, he was really good. He was a top 12 quarterback. He was really, really good. Next year was a little below, kind of in that like 15 to 20 range. But then his final year in Seattle, he was kind of like a 20 to 25 quarterback. And is that an upgrade? Sure, but that's like not a massive upgrade.
What's the consistency between the last 2 years and Geno Smith? It's how he had bottom 7 offensive line play.
Yeah.
Like I think like maybe I'm just being too hopeful. I kind of believe that I'm not saying Geno Smith's going to be a top 20. Like I think he's going to be like quarterback 22.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's elite. Just like Kyler Murray. Like, do I think Kyler Murray is going to be quarterback 10 on the year? Absolutely not. Do I think he might be quarterback 15, 16? Yeah, I think that's very fair. Like, and this is on passing metrics. Like,
Mhm.
if he adds rushing stuff, he could finish top 10 in fantasy. But like, if we're just talking pure passer, like
Sure.
Kyler's not ever been known as a pure passer. But
No.
like, if he is his best self, like with these weapons, he could finish top 20. And I just think that the offensive line for the Jets, they definitely are improved. And
Oh,
they have a lot of capital in it. And Geno Smith in the past, when he's had the very few times he's had offensive line, he's looked solid. Not elite, but solid. And sometimes that's all it takes. Like a few more extra first downs to get an offense to really get there and to go and to keep the ball more really good for both sides of it. Now, are they a team that could absolutely flop and stay at the bottom? Absolutely. Like,
yeah.
am I going to be overweight the Jets? Absolutely not. But
Yeah.
do I think they're fine where they go? I think they're fine. Do I think that like are they the risk? Like they're also the picks that I think can boom the most in those range. And we do play a spike week game. Because
So I guess that's my concern is Garrett Wilson has
he
not
hasn't.
been the biggest
Yeah.
spike guy. And it's also like if he stays healthy, do I think he can still be a top 20 receiver? So kind of roughly pay off the ADP. Yeah, it actually kind of reminds me of a couple years ago. This wasn't Geno's last year in Dallas. It was the second to last, or last year in Seattle. It was the second to last year
Metcalf.
in Seattle. DK Metcalf, I think, had one 25-point game. And actually, I think it was like a 30-point game. And then I think he had one more like 19, 20-point game. But everything else was consistent, like 13, 14 points, like just about every week. But he only had like 2 games that we would call spike weeks.
Yeah.
And that was Geno. And, that was just kind of what I think Garrett Wilson could be. And that still has a role. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just my problem is the guys going. I think Garrett Wilson goes about a round too early. And
I do think that like as soon as T. Higgins is off the board, like I said this last year at the beginning of the 3rd round. I said the 3rd round all the way to the back end of the 4th round feel very similar to me. And I think at Garrett Wilson is where that starts. Like I think from Garrett Wilson all the way down to Roma Dunze are pretty similar players.
Yeah. I guess I just feel a number of those guys, whether old, like yes, make jokes with me, my fascination for olds, but Mike Evans and Devontae Adams finished top 10, top 15, essentially every year of their career. Adams did last year, missing 3.5 games. Evans did the year before, missing 3.5 games. So why are we taking Garrett Wilson above him? Why are we taking him above T-Mac or Roma Dunze. I mean, as we talked about, this Bears offense is so explosive. They lose DJ Moore.
Yeah.
It should be more condensed. And that, I guess that is the one other pushback is Garrett Wilson. That early part, he was competing against Josh Reynolds.
Yeah.
Whether Adonai Mitchell is a thing or not, whether they draft somebody, even Mason Taylor getting more involved. Mason Taylor's snap share grew as the season went on.
Have you heard the really ugly rumor about what they might do it too?
No.
So I was watching NFL Stock Exchange yesterday. Fantastic show for anybody who doesn't watch it. It's like the Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers are fantastic.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's like real smoke that at 2 they may just take Carnell Tate.
Oh God. No.
I love Carnell Tate.
Oh, it's so good.
But like it would be the absolute worst decision you could possibly make to take Carnell Tate at 2. Like, do I think he's the best wide receiver in this class by far? Yes. Do I think that he compares to Arvell Reese or Ruben Bain, like for a team that already has an elite receiver like that has holes everywhere on defense? Like, and Aaron Glenn being a defensive guy, like there's just no way that this is going to happen. Like this feels like
smokescreen.
It feels like every team in the top 4 don't want to pick in the top 4.
Yeah,
is what this feels like. And I think the Giants started that with the Jeremiah Love stuff. I think that every single team up top is just desperately trying to trade back. Is what I think.
Yeah,
but like if that's true, like what are you like? What are you doing with anybody there?
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible for both. But
and Bruce.
Yeah. Oh, and my other point is, let's even ignore that for a second. But with their second first rounder, if they take a receiver there, which is I think much more likely, that is a level of competition for Garrett Wilson that he didn't have last year for sure.
Well, like I do think that a second receiver would just elevate the offense in general. But it is a competition for him, yes. But I do think that, like, honestly, like, I do think that Carnell Tate would be actually pretty good for Brees because I think that the offense would stay moving a lot more, all that. I just think that his touchdown equity, which he hasn't really had, would be fantastic. Would be a lot higher for the pick that he's at.
Yeah.
And I think he would fall in the drafts. So I think I'd end up with a bag of them. But I think that if they take somebody like a Concepcion at 16, because he would pair really well with what Garrett Wilson does, right? Or an Omar Cooper at 16. Like, I don't think it's great for those players, but I think it would be good for the Jets as an offense.
Oh, I think it's good for Geno, but I do think any high capital receiver should impact, just about anyone.
Yeah.
If the Rams take a guy at 13, we're wrong on both Puka and Devontae. Like they should not be going that high.
Right.
Doesn't mean Puka should go out of the first round, but he's pick 12 now. Devontae goes down a round and a half. And it's the same here with Garrett Wilson. If they take a first round receiver, whether it's Carnell Tate at 2 or, like you said, Concepcion, Cooper, whoever, I think that is something we should consider. And because we're doing it for other teams, right? We're doing it for other guys that we think are probably going to get some competition. I don't know. And like I said, overall, I'm not as concerned about Garrett Wilson. Just it's more the spike week, the ceiling. I actually think Brees is the worst of the clicks just because he has shown no real touchdown upside. His one monster fantasy year was the year he had like 95 targets or whatever it was. And they just haven't shown a repeat of that since.
Yeah, it looks like Player Profiler is still down. Oh, nope. It just popped. So, like, last year, Brees, full PPR, or so half-point PPR, 15.5, 13, 15, a 30-point game.
The Bengals.
And, the Bengals. 18 or 19-point game, another 20-point game. Like, so he had some spikes, and like he was pretty consistent. But this is kind of like the crux of the whole conversation, though. Like, if we come back here and we sort by rushing fantasy points, like we just sort by fantasy points as a whole, the Jets are 29th. Like, these players, like, spikes are going to be correlated to how good your offense is as a whole, because if you're not scoring multiple touchdowns in weeks, you're probably not having those big spikes. And the fewer amount of fantasy points as a whole that you're scoring as a team, the fewer amount of chances you're going to have for those touchdowns, right? Which are going to be less inclined to have spikes.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if we want to look through the Vikings, I'm sure, like, I don't think they really had anybody spike last year very high, right?
Not running back wise, no.
Or even receiver, right?
I think
Jefferson had one really good game.
Yeah.
With Cousins, or not with Cousins, with guy got hurt with the arm. Why can't I think
Carson
of his name?
Wentz.
Yeah, Wentz in those 5 games that we discussed earlier. So that was weeks 3 through whatever.
Yeah, 3 through 8.
Had a 22-point game, and then just a bunch of solid games.
Yeah.
And 22 points was his highest game last year, and that was on 10 receptions. So half-point PPR, that was 17 points. Like, that's not great.
No.
That's not great at all. Let's go look at Addison real quick.
Yeah, I think Addison actually had more spikes.
Addison always has more spikes.
But
Jefferson.
I mean, just everything was better for Addison.
So he had a 9 reception, 21-point game, which would be 17 fantasy points, which was the highest spike for him as well. So their 2 receivers at most had a spike week of 17 points.
And they were both with Carson Wentz, and they're even their like other good games were with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, all of their good games was with Carson Wentz, and all of the other games were not. So, like, and then I do think that Jordan Mason had one really good spike week in London, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I remember he was the DFS lock that week. So, like, we don't really have spikes here either. Like Aaron Jones, like several 14-point weeks. This full PPR, so like that'd be 14.5 ish. Another 14.5 game and another 14.5 game, right? Like that's it. And then a couple 10-point games. And then we go to Mason, and it's going to be very similar. Like, he has the 123-point game against Cincinnati. Shocker.
We're sensing a theme here.
Yeah, shocker. Best game of the year.
Yeah, Judkins, all these guys are like their
just
best games.
Yeah. And then he had a 10-point game, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 10-point games, and that's it.
Wow.
Like, so like the moral of the story is like the lower, and like this is kind of proven untrue a little bit with the Raiders, because Genty, but like Genty had 2 or 3 really big spikes, and Bowers had 2 or 3 really big spikes. So Genty had this 33-point spike. He had a 24-point spike with 8 receptions, so that'd be a 20-point game. And he had a 31-point spike with only 1 reception. Yeah. And that was in the fantasy playoffs. So that was 31. That was still a 31-point game. So he had 2 30-plus point games. And he had 1 game with 8 receptions that ended up being a 20-point game. So he still got some spikes, and he had some solid games in between as well. Like, not a lot of them. Like, he had a bunch of really bad games as well. But like, in all of those other teams, because like the Browns, like we looked at Judkins earlier, like he had 2 spikes, but he was so much of their offense.
Yeah.
We can look at Fannin here in a bit as well, because Fannin actually transcends that whole no spike week thing as well. Like, because like a lot of these offenses, like the players, like the big spikes. I'm not talking like a 17-point game, like a touchdown, 60 yards, which like Chimere DK did a couple times, and
Yeah.
like Tony Pollard at the end of the season had a really big spike. But there, like I think if you separated, let's do that real quick. Let's separate out the last few weeks, like the last from week 10 and on. Basically, once Callahan was gone, and let's see where they end up. So, like the Titans moved
Yeah.
all the way up to 25th. Like, does that make them an elite offense? Nope. That's also without Mahomes. Kansas City was pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that explains it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a free square. That's what you call a free square. Chris Aludican gives you one free square.
It's so bad.
And then like they still weren't ahead of the Colts without Daniel Jones, but we could remove all the weeks without Daniel Jones and they'd be way down as well. But like the Titans were trending up at the end of the year, just like the Saints moved up to like 21, right? So that is something to kind of keep in mind here. And like if we go look at Tony Pollard, I think somebody just said something. Seen a lot of mocks with Rams, take a wide receiver. Yeah, I think they're most likely going to take a wide receiver. That's kind of where I'm landing. So he had a bunch of okay, like barely usable weeks early on. And then down the stretch, 28 points with 0 receptions, 18 points with 1 reception. So, and then he had a couple okay games. But yeah, he had one other usable week early in the season. So like, but I guess his numbers overall didn't really change. It's just that he played the Cleveland defense that had given up at that point, and the San Francisco defense who had lost all their players. So honestly,
I mean, I think his numbers changed. Like we see there at the end, 28, 18, 10, 11. Like that's much better. He only had, 3 double-digit games in the first 12.
He had 4. Well, I guess in half point PPR, read 3. Yeah,
but I think it was definitely there was more of a ceiling. There was more consistency. And just he was just closer, like 95, 102. Just these are better games, and yeah, touchdowns are going to matter a lot. I get that, but I think that's what when we talk about an offense being better, Pollard is a good example. Titans are a good example just because they have so many positive things going in the right direction. Or some of the teams we're talking about, like, yes, we can say Geno's an upgrade over, Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor and Brady Cook. But their offensive coordinator, Frank Wright, is that much better? Like, are we super excited about that? I guess those are some of the concerns that are out there. And, I think the Breece Hall thing to me, just because, again, we're playing half point PPR and he's just never been a touchdown guy.
Yeah, he really hasn't.
And that just ends up being way more troubling to me. Because I looked it up, he finished 20th in points per game last year. And, we just don't know what it's going to, and he didn't have the injuries like Garrett Wilson or anything else. So I just feel like there's, Javonte Williams finished 12th in points per game last year. The Cowboys offense just to me is way better. I'd rather bet on Javonte Williams than Breece Hall.
Oh, I understand that. I'm kind of like looking for upside at point. Like it depends on the team. Like I don't know. Like I have about the same amount of both of them. I have like 7%, 6 or 7% of both of them, I think. Like Javonte to me is a harder click. I don't know about you. I get a really big feeling they're adding somebody to the room in the draft.
They could, but I mean, so could the Jets. Like, I just don't know if that's a guarantee because Javante's under contract for a long term. Hall isn't, you know. Like they're paying Hall more, but I guess again, like I think Brees Hall's fine, but as much as it's a mixed room, like Travion Henderson had more spike weeks than Brees Hall, you know, and I would rather have a Patriots back. I'd rather have, like I said, Rico Dowdle finished 21 in points per game, and he was a backup for half the year.
I had my chart sorted wrong earlier, and yeah, Swift was running back 14 on the season, and he goes way after that right now.
Yeah, another one.
But Brees Hall was 20. Yeah, I had it sorted by something else because I'd done it the other day. I just keep all of my browsers up all the time. That way I don't have to re-log into them. So like now we can go back up to the top here and we can start looking at these other offenses. Like let's just look at, I don't know, just pick one. Well, we already went through the Bears.
I think the Patriots, like Patriots is such an interesting one with them not having any guy taken in the top 40 picks, 45 picks.
Yeah. So Travion had over 1,000 yards last year total.
Mm-hmm.
He still had 10 total touchdowns. His fantasy points per game was 12.1, which is 10 point whatever because of 30, or it'd be 11 points per game because of 35 receptions. So we look here, and these are the weeks that that Ramondre missed, I believe, right? With 28, so he had 27 points, and then he had 29 points or whatever. And then he had another one a couple weeks later with 30 points.
And Ramondre was back then.
And Ramondre was back. And then, in the week 18, I think they rested Ramondre, maybe?
No, I think they both had good games that week.
They just both had good games.
But because Drake May just didn't throw. They just ran the hell out of both of them.
But yeah, there's a lot of not usable weeks here. But when he spiked, he spikes.
Yeah.
And he was a rookie. So you expect him to start off slow. Those first 8 weeks, if you remove the first 8 weeks, a lot of people will do for rookies, they just remove X amount of weeks, right? You just look at where they started to really take off and you just project out from there. You got 12.7, 28, 32, 11.1, 11.6, 30, then a 2.2, and then an 8.2, then a 17.3. And then in the playoffs, they used Ramondre way more. And it's most likely because they went against the Chargers are an awesome defense. The Texans, literally the Texans, the Broncos, and the Seahawks may have been the top 3 defenses in the league last year.
Yeah, and Chargers probably weren't far behind. Those were probably 4 of the top 7 defenses.
Yeah, exactly. So, you have a rookie who was, struggling learning the pass protection stuff. You're going to run Ramondre out there to do that. And that's a point that got brought up to me the other day. And I do think that I'm kind of overlooking Travion to some extent. I don't dislike him. I'm with you. I think that him and Travion and Ramondre should be closer together.
Yeah.
But I do think that they both fit completely different builds.
Well,
for your running back rooms.
Yeah. And I think the thing here is also, while I think Henderson goes a little too high, I think the issue that I have is, to me, both these guys, I'm comparing them to Brees Hall and also their current ADPs. Now, if Henderson's ADP is 48, if Hall's ADP was 49, I'd say, yeah, take Brees Hall. But it's not. Like, you have to take them 10, a round ahead. And I'd rather wait
Well,
around.
this kind of goes into my whole. I kind of think everything after Garrett Wilson's the same all the way down to Rome,
Yeah.
and I think that's not just a thing with wide receivers. I think that's relevant with like. I think that Javonte all the way down to DeAndre Swift are pretty
Mhm.
similar. Like I just think that the ADP set in that area,
Yeah.
and I think that like you would be made fun of if you pulled Swift up there to above Javonte because you could just get both. But like very few, like probably something that is being underutilized is pulling Swift up there. If you like, if I believe that, and then going Swift plus like Adunze into Caleb, right?
Mhm.
Doing something like that to get a unique pairing. Because nobody's doing that. A lot of people have the Burden Swift Caleb, but very few will have the Rome Swift Caleb. But I just think that whole range, like, and as soon as those running backs there at the end, like Judkins plus Swift plus Scatabo, like once all of that, I guess you could lop Tootin in there. Like once all those guys go, I think it's kind of a dead tier. And like, I don't know if you throw like Christian Watson in there, but like, I kind of feel like he's kind of by himself somewhere. Not sure. Because like after that, you get like Marvin Harrison, all those players, and those are offenses that I don't believe in. Like once all those players go, like we're looking at basically the crux of the conversation is the Jets because like them being at the front of that tier, and I view it as a big tier. I don't know if you believe the same thing, but like if they were going at the 4-5 turn, like you're talking about, I think they would be like there'd be no difference to me.
Yeah. And I think I think we're kind of talking the same thing. It's just like, why are we picking? I agree the tier is relatively flat for a couple rounds at both positions. And I guess the issue is, why are two of the earliest guys that we're taking in that tier
On the
guys
worst
from the
offense,
worst,
yeah.
and even if they are an improved offense, we're talking they're the 24th offense. That's an improvement, but the Bears could be a top 10. The Rams top 5, like the 49ers top 5 for those receivers. Like some of the other running backs, like Javonte Williams, again, none of the top 10 offense. Like even Cam Scattaboo, I know he's dodging the Jeremiah Love thing, but he never is going to go, even if the Giants don't take Jeremiah Love, Cam Scattaboo is not going to go higher than Brees Hall. Cam Scattaboo,
Right.
in his 8 games, outproduced Brees Hall.
Yeah. I mean, there is injury concern on a couple of these players, and they're the two that go at the end of the tier, which that makes some sense.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about Garrett Wilson having the injuries last year. I mean, they did say that he was ready to come back, and they were just going to rest him, all that stuff. So there is that being there. So we were talking about wanting to do Harold Fannin as well, because he kind of like one thing that I'm noted, like I was pointing out earlier, is that let's go back up here and fix this. Is that the teams at the bottom, like you're less likely, even in a concentrated offense, to have like so the Raiders are kind of a concentrated offense, and the Browns, and they do have some people to spike, but the Jets and the Vikings have concentrated offenses, and they didn't spike, and then the Saints had many people spike, which is wild. Like,
well, I do think I can kind of point out one thing for that, and like for the Saints were like the poor man's version of the Cardinals. No running backs, so it's all through the air production.
Yeah.
And so Olave could just, do his thing. Juwan Johnson could do his thing. This is a poor man's version of what we saw down the stretch between McBride and Michael Wilson. And they weren't throwing the ball near the same, but when you just don't have a good running offense, when you don't have any sort of balance, all your touchdowns are kind of going in one direction.
Yeah. So here's the fan end chart. Week 16, he had 18 fantasy points. He had, what would it be that? 4 less points, 21.4 fantasy points in week 14. And then he had 15.4 this week, and then a 13-point game here.
Mhm.
But other than that, and he had his first game, he had 10 points. So at tight end, tight end points are harder to get. So
Yeah.
all of these 8s and 7s, they do matter, some, right? It's not what you want in best ball, but floor has a value.
Yeah.
Now the reason you prefer the 4 tight end builds is because you're trying to perfectly correlate the 18-point games between the players. If we go just look at somebody's favorite player, Pat Fryermuth, we will see that I don't know what we're going to see.
He had one,
Actually,
he
had
like
one
2 big
gigantic
games.
one, and then a couple usable weeks here.
Yeah. I mean, the issue with Fryermuth is obviously Jonnu, and that not being fair. You look more Fryermuth has multiple years of being a top 12 tight end. So the idea that he's being taken as tight end 30th is the issue.
Yeah. And I know Otten didn't spike because the Bucks didn't have a tight end touch. They had one tight end touchdown the whole year. But Juwan Johnson, we'll go to Juwan. We'll go to Brenton Strange and those guys. Strange is is different because he missed games and all that. So Juwan played 17 games and he averaged 10 points, full PPR. So he had 11 points there, 13 points, another 10-point game. He was tight end 3 week 10 with 17 points. He had another 14-point game. So he had several 15+ point games, right? And what you're trying to do with the kind of build that you're doing is you're just trying to spike, build a bunch of those and have them intermittently hit.
Yeah, the issue for me with Fannin is just is again not the player. It's just where he comes down. Why is Sam Laporta going 25, 30 picks later? Why is Kyle Pitts? I question the Kyle Pitts offense.
Yeah, so
he just has a better track record. Why is Tucker Kraft going? Now they're roughly the same, but Tucker Kraft generally has gone behind Harold Fannin.
I mean,
Tucker Kraft was dominating
from day one. I was like, I just can't take Fannin before Kraft.
Yeah,
and I done it a couple times because I didn't want 0 Fannin. I ended up with 7% Fannin. I don't love it because I didn't think he was because in my lobbies, everybody agreed and everybody took Kraft first. And I didn't think that and for a while, Kyle Pitts was also ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was between him and Laporta. And I was getting a lot of Laporta because I was doing a lot of Amon-Ra. So I was pairing that up a lot already. So I was just whenever he fell to the 8th round, which is now the common thing, I would take him because I thought it was rare, right? But now it's not rare anymore. But so Laporta, before he got hurt last year, he was just pretty consistent. He had a 10-point game. That'd be a 18-point game, a 13-point game, and a 18-point game. So.
Yeah. And he would have dominated Washington because that was around halftime that he got hurt.
Yeah, so he had 10 points already. And then you want to talk about Tucker Kraft as well. Because these are the offenses and by the way, the Packers, the drop back for EPA stuff looks really, really good. Drop back EPA and the rushing EPA. So it looks really good. Which is wild because you don't really think of them as a passing offense, right? And I know I think that they could be this year. So he had 6 touchdowns in 8 games, by the way.
he would have had just a monster season.
It would have been insane. So he had a 24, like he was tight end one twice.
Yeah.
But he also just got touchdowns all the time. Like, so this week he had 8 points. Not great, but fine. Then he had 20, 21 points. Then he had that was a bad week. Then he had 11-point week, 13-point week. And then this week was insane. He ended up with 30 points. A tight end with 2 20-plus point games is insane work. Like, if you go look at McBride, who's going incredibly high, like McBride's floor was nuts, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, his floor was nutty.
Yeah.
But he only had, there's one, so he had 3, he had 4 over 20-point games, and he had 2 19-point games, which is insane. But
Yeah.
like, Kraft wouldn't have got there, but he would have been semi-close.
He would have been tight end 2 and
Yeah.
like probably averaged 12 and a half points. Maybe
Right.
13.
And let's go back to this chart and let's look and see where the where were the Packers? 12th.
12th, yeah.
So, but the main thing is we're looking to avoid these bad offenses, as we've kind of pointed out, because they can spike,
Mhm.
but when they don't spike, they're like zeros, and they do have, as we've kind of pointed out, there's just less of a chance for these offenses that end in the bottom to have spike players. And like, I know the Dolphins kind of transcend that because Achane is Achane, right? But like the Panthers also kind of transcend, like, so, and the whole time we were talking like bottom 5 offenses. Like, if you could project what are the bottom 5 offenses and kind of fade them to some degree. Now, we play best ball, so you may just need Garrett Wilson in week 17. It may happen.
Yeah.
Right. So full fading, like, could it be one of those things where full fading it was right and you still get screwed? Absolutely. That is part of this game. Like, because all that really matters is what happens whenever all the money's won, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
process wise, like, I view things based on process, like, and where I can shoot, like, and so like let's go through all the teams and we'll project out like which ones have a possibility to be bottom 5, right?
Sure.
Like, I'm going to guess our list is going to be about 10, maybe 11 teams or something. If anybody has somebody in the chat they want to discuss on yes or no, let us know as well. And yeah, I do think that could be, assuming like the talk between Kamara and the team seem really weird right now. All right. So Raiders, do you agree or disagree they could be bottom 5?
I think they could, but I think
Unlikely.
it's fairly low.
I think so as well. I'm gonna suggest Browns. I think you're gonna agree.
Yeah, they'd be the leading candidate.
The team. Yeah.
I think if they are the 27th, which is still bottom 5, or I guess 28th offense, that might be their high point.
Right. Tennessee.
They could be, but kind of similar to the Raiders, probably. I think they're more likely to be in that 20 to 25 range.
Give me a minute. I'm gonna make a new spreadsheet here.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
I think to your point, what you're saying is sometimes we do end up needing these guys. And, a couple of years ago, Jets were a terrible offense with Zach Wilson and Brees Hall you did need because he was just a PPR scam. Like he got so many targets,
Yeah.
and it was enough to pay off. But it's just, and what we're talking about here is A, versus their price, and B, I don't want to project every guy to hit their 99th percent outcome. Like we should be shooting for 90th percent outcomes, not 99% outcomes, is kind of how I see it when
Yeah.
these guys are what I think to be overpriced.
All right. So what about the Jets? What do you think the likelihood of them being a bottom team are?
I think I
bottom
actually
five.
think it's pretty high. I
So
really do.
I agree. I just think that them improving, because I think they're going to be more like the 26th, 27th, is where I look at it. All right. So Minnesota, I don't think they're going to be close.
No, I don't think they should be.
I don't think the Saints will be close either.
Yeah, I think bottom five. I mean, and part of this, obviously, injuries can come into a big play. But no, Saints should not be a bottom five offense.
All right. I'm putting the Dolphins in mine. What are you doing?
I think they are, potentially going to be, for sure. As I've said before, I do want to see what they end up with. They have so many draft picks. They could just put them all on offense. And not just like skill guys, but like offensive line, stuff like that. They could sign a veteran free agent. If this team suddenly turns into Juwan Jennings, Mekhi Lemon, Max Clare, a couple offensive linemen, I'll feel a little bit better about them.
All right. Panthers.
I have a lot of concerns with the Panthers.
Okay. Care to explain?
Well, look, they rated pretty bad here last year, and they could add to it, but so far they lost Rico Dowdle. He was their biggest part of their offense last year, and they lost him. I think their offensive line is pretty good, but Bryce Young, I thought, kind of took a step back. He definitely didn't take a step forward. And while T-Mac was, good as a rookie, how much more can he grow? I don't expect Leggett. Coker is interesting, but not, it's not like I think we're thinking Jalen Coker's T. Higgins or, some like really good number two. So it just feels like right now they lack a lot of firepower.
I actually agree to some extent. I have them in the same tier as like the Titans and Raiders, that they could be, but I don't think they will be.
Yeah.
That's where I have them.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely a path for them to escape bottom five. And it could change. Like, they could draft Sadiq in the first round and a receiver in the second round. And I just feel, and a running back in the third round. And I just feel much better about their outlook.
Oh yeah. So Commanders, no.
I think very unlikely to be.
Yeah. Buccaneers.
I do think they have some true collapse potential, but I generally think it's smaller than a few other teams.
Yeah, I would agree there.
I think a collapse for them is roughly where they were last year, 23.
I like, maybe this is kind of a hot take, but I could absolutely see them being a team that like fully collapses like the Eagles did 2 years ago, at the end of the season. KC, probably not.
As long as Mahomes is back, no.
Yeah. Falcons, you said you had some concerns on.
Mm-hmm. I do. I definitely do.
Do you have them like closer to the bottom five or more like a concern?
I think it's kind of in between. I don't think they're going to finish 32, 31. I think they could be somewhere between 28 and 22, somewhere in that range. Cardinals are one that I really have concern with as well.
I do as well. So you've got 5 already down there. Like I've only got 3 in the. I'm probably a little more hopeful here. Somebody said like we could do Pittsburgh twice, with and without Rodgers. With Rodgers, they're absolutely not a worry. Without Rodgers, like, do you put him down there?
I'd want to see what they do at quarterback. Like, do they go trade for a Tanner McKee or somebody like that? Do they,
Mac Jones, do the
Mac
two
Jones?
seconds for a Mac Jones thing?
Does Derek Carr come out of retirement? I don't know. I know these aren't maybe the greatest options, but still are probably better than what the Cardinals are trying out there.
Yeah.
I guess what I look for the Steelers is their offensive line. They need to figure out the Broderick Jones injury situation and guard, but it's actually good overall. They have multiple running backs, multiple tight ends, now 2 really good receivers. I have a tough time, and a really good offensive-minded coach, Mike McCarthy. He hasn't had many years down that far.
Like I'll put them kind of in the middle. Like I think that they'll probably finish near bottom 5 without Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean they don't have a ceiling without
Right.
Rodgers.
All right, Texans.
I don't really think bottom 5, just because so far I think their offensive line should be better than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
And likely it's still to continue. I think a big issue last year was the running game.
All right.
Monty alone improved that drastically.
All right. So kind of shotgun the next one. It's like Giants, Ravens.
Giants, I do have a fear.
Giants, you do.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a very small fear for me on the Giants. I like the Nagy stuff is like really bad in my eyes. But
I think the other thing is just a team. They're
their top 2 skill position players are coming back off of major injuries.
Exactly.
So it could be bad.
For as fun as Jackson Dart was, so much of it was his rushing. There are games where he just did not look good as a passer. So if he regresses there, and also he was banged up just about every week. What if he gets a serious injury? We saw look at Washington's change from, Jaden's rookie year to last year. Big drop off.
All right. So any of these other teams, I doubt that you have anything like. I do think that Seattle could regress, but they're not going to go to bottom 5.
Yeah, Seattle regressing is like to 15.
Yeah. Just like
the
Cowboys,
Colts with Daniel Jones, but they're not going to be bottom 5.
Right. What would you say if I said the Packers?
I think there are some concerns with their offensive line. Losing Romeo Doubs, their most consistent receiver, maybe not their highest upside, is a slight concern, but they have enough depth there. And for me, it's their offense goes, I think, as Kraft and Jacobs goes.
Yeah.
Early in the season, as we saw, Kraft was rolling, Jacobs was rolling as well. Late in the year, Jacobs was banged up. He wasn't 100%. Kraft was out, and I don't think they're as good.
I feel pretty okay about the Packers as an offense, but I do like I do see a way, like all of their players get hurt, every one of them.
Yeah.
Every single one. Love's not excluded. Love does. Kraft's been hurt. Yeah. Musgrave gets hurt. Like even Jacobs plays through injuries. Like we all know Marshawn Lloyd can't stay healthy. Like Matthew Golden's never been hurt, but he disappointed year 1. Jaden Reed has been hurt a couple times. It's just one of those I worry about the training room, I guess, more than anything. Like if they're all healthy, I don't really feel that bad about them. But I know I have several Packers fans that listen. I think they're pretty easily the 4th best team in that division with Kyler being added.
Yeah, well, I do think their defense also took a lot of hits.
Exactly. Yeah,
and Micah Parsons is coming back from a serious injury, so what are you getting right there?
Like I'm investing into the Packers passing game this year. I think that they're going to be down a little bit more. I think that Tucker Kraft's a great price. I think Jaden Reed and Watson are good picks. I think Golden could explode. Like I'm investing in this offense because I think it could be not necessarily a Arizona level thing from last year, but like a mild version of that.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody else? Like I think that's probably it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, other falls are maybe a team falls 5, 10 spots, but
All right.
nowhere near at the bottom.
So this is kind of what I made up here, just to kind of give a visual. We both agree on these three:
Yeah.
Jets, Brown, and Miami. And like, I think that the Jets are going to improve, but like they were not functional at all last year.
Mhm.
Like, I think they'll be functional, but still bad. Arizona, we both agree on, and I could have done this a different way. So I would control paste, but when I do that, it changes the background since I
Yeah.
do it this way instead of have dark mode. So the teams that like obviously we're both kind of like middling the Steelers if they get
No Rodgers.
it
Yeah.
with no Rodgers. So like I have four that I feel pretty confident those teams aren't going to be good.
Me too.
So we'll just go ahead and like, do you feel confident about this Panthers or do you want to?
I feel I'd say I'm very concerned. Like, and this is the other thing is the draft is very important for some of these teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my outlook, I've said it even with Miami, like my outlook could change quite a bit if they go out and take 2 early receivers and, sign David Njoku, like
They signed Malik Willis and that was the dotted I for me. Like it was done at that point. Maybe I'm wrong. I still have 7% Malik because he could get there in the rushing game.
yeah.
I'm just not taking anybody with him.
Well, yeah, I'm not taking because I don't consider him somebody who's going to elevate weapons.
Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. I have taken a Dulcich chair on a Malik team, but like that's kind of whatever. But then, like these are the teams, like the Raiders, the Titans, and the Bucks. And the Panthers. We all kind of have some concern about. You have more concern on the Panthers, the Giants, the Falcons than I do. And the Steelers just kind of need to be by themselves. Like they're either up here or they're off the list in my eyes.
Yeah, the Giants is only really all those injuries.
Yeah, exactly. Like if by training camp we find out that everybody's actually fully healthy, like I have zero worries.
Yeah, at that point I'd have zero risk.
And the Bucks, to me, it's more of a feel thing. I like they could easily be a top 10 offense as well. Like they are the biggest risk reward team this year, in my opinion.
No, I mean you said it earlier. They are the most boom bust team. I feel like it. We could be sitting here and saying Baker Mayfield's a top 5 quarterback like he was 2 years ago, or you could say he's quarterback 25.
And I am a believer that Stefanski is going to have a solid offense. I think they have plenty of weapons there. Their defense is losing James Pierce. So like they're going to be in catch-up mode a lot. I feel pretty okay that like with the weapons they have between Bijan and Drake London, that they will at least be able to put up at least those players. Like I've mixed in some Zacchaeus and a little bit of Dotson. Which one do you prefer? I prefer Zacchaeus to Dotson.
I prefer Dotson just because they gave him more money. So I kind of followed that.
Yeah, okay. I've been following Zacchaeus because that man kept Luther Burden off the field.
No, I mean it's fair.
Like everybody loves Luther Burden, and this guy kept Luther Burden off the field. So that's kind of why, like, if Xavier Hutchinson would have signed with him, I probably would have been in on Xavier Hutchinson over Dotson. Kind of like that's just the path I was following. But yeah, so these are pretty much the 4 offenses we kind of believe you should avoid.
I know, and it's also the issue is cost.
Right. Yeah. So like the Browns, only one player goes in the top 60, and that player goes at about 60.
Yeah.
The
I
Dolphins.
still think that's high for the Browns because I mean Fanning goes in top, late 70s,
Well, right.
and
Like, if we come
and
back
for a
here,
tight end, that's very high.
we come back here, like the Browns, fantasy points per game, 32.6 on the Browns and Titans, but we did separate it out, and the Titans, once Callahan was gone, did
Well,
end up moving way up.
Well, and
Right?
this is where the cost element comes in.
Right.
Tony Pollard goes 100, and even when there wasn't as much Jeremiah Love concern, he was going 80. 30 picks past Judkins. Their first wide receiver, Wandale, now goes 90, 95. Their tight end goes super late. Their other wide receivers all go super late. So it's like there's just there's not near the risk. Even if both these teams finish with the exact same fantasy points a game, guess what? The Titans are a better value.
Yeah. And Arizona, they have two guys going in round 6 and 7, and then their running back goes in round 8 now.
And that's on top of the tight end who goes in top 25.
Yeah. And the tight end that goes top 25. So, like, I've been I've got like 2.5% McBride.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved McBride last year. I had a bunch of McBride last year. I just don't think that, I don't think that they're going to be able to compete. I think that I kind of have them as the team that's going to take Ty Simpson.
Yeah, very good.
And if that happens, you're not going to want them in the fantasy playoffs anyway, at all. So, and then let's go to the Panthers, because these are the riskier bet. So the Giants, Neighbors goes in the 2nd, Scatabo goes in the late 5th. But that's it, right? Antart goes as quarterback 13, but there's reasons he goes quarterback 13 because he spikes really hard when he plays.
Yeah.
But
likely goes in the 130s now, but yeah.
Yeah. So I said something some people didn't like yesterday on stream. I think I'm Chig over Likely straight up.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a very, I think.
Am I going to draft it that way and have 0 Likely? No, but
exactly.
Am I going to have 4.5% Likely and 12% Chig or whatever? Yes. I basically, if I'm looking at a tight end in that range and there's another position I could fill, I'm going to fill that position because I feel better about the Chig, Andrews, all those guys. We kind of talked about this last week. But
I think Likely is now overpriced because he should not be going. I think the Chig is, maybe more I also if they were the same price, I think I'd take Likely. I agree with you. 2-round value on Chig is better.
Yeah. And he doesn't have any competition. And I do regardless of what he got paid, Theo Johnson is a better second tight end than whatever Ben Sinnott is.
Yeah.
So then we're looking at the Falcons. If you're right on them, they go very high.
Yeah. I think Bijan's a little bit more insulated, similar to Devon A-Chain. But yeah, I worry. I worry about London. I do. I have 6% London. I really like him, but I just don't like relying on Tua and Michael Penix to get me there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Are you Bijan over Gibbs or are you Gibbs over Bijan?
I'm still Bijan over Gibbs because I guess to me, Tua, and I know it's a different offense, but Tua showed last year he can still, look at where A-Chain finished last year.
Yeah. And then Raiders, we have 2 players in the first 2 rounds and then nobody. Exactly like it should be.
Yeah.
Exactly like it should be. And this is fully a bet on them not finishing where they did last year, right?
And this is the difference between the Raiders and the Cardinals because, both have a tight end going essentially in the same range. And now granted, a Raiders running back goes way higher than a Cardinals running back, but from a receiving standpoint, from a pass volume standpoint, we have two Cardinals players, Marvin Harrison in the early mid 60s, and then Michael Wilson like 80s, 90. The next Raiders receivers are like 170 and 190. You know what I mean?
Are you Bowers straight up over McBride this year?
I think now with Cousins for sure.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's a big positive.
All right. Then Panthers, we have one that goes at the same spot, like a couple spots in front of Garrett Wilson. And then you have Chuba Hubbard goes several rounds after Brees Hall does. And basically a couple picks before the Arizona running back. But that's basically, and then Coker goes at like 110. So like the Panthers feel like even if they finish like 26th, 27th, like the pieces where they're being drafted could still perform.
Yeah, I worry about T-Mac kind of in the same Garrett Wilson conversation is how high is his ceiling? But so I'm okay with him. I'm underweight, but okay. For me, the Chuba thing is that to me is a risky price right now. Now, if they don't add a running back, then maybe it's fine. I don't know why Chuba goes ahead of. Now he's going ahead of like Ramondre. I don't know why he goes ahead of Dowdle.
Well, there's obvious reasons he goes ahead of Dowdle. Like it's because Dowdle was going in the 120s a couple weeks ago. I think it's like within the first week or two of BBM season, I think Dowdle will flip all those players.
He should. He definitely should.
Like I think he's going to be ahead of Algier. I think he's going to be ahead of Chuba. I think he's going to be ahead of Warren.
Yeah.
Like I think that buzz will happen. Titans, like we kind of discussed them. They don't have anybody going anywhere close to the top. So like, if you think that they're an okay offense, like, and like Cam Ward's such a good pick because you can backstack him. Like, don't is their first skill like pass catcher is Ridley, right?
No, Wandale.
Oh yeah, Wandale. Yeah.
But still,
I have like 15%. I have like 15% Wandale. I don't know why, because I'm actually pretty bullish on that because of the whole like he's basically an adult version of Restrepo.
Well, but yeah, I mean that's the thing is he goes like pick 90, 95, 100 sometimes, right. And Tony Pollard's a little right behind him.
But like,
I mean, even if they are the worst offense in the league, those guys can still pay off.
Yeah, and then the Buccaneers, they have two players in the fourth round. Like for the boom bust potential that the Buccaneers have. Like when Bucky was going to the third, I had a hard time. I actually still have a little bit of a hard time with Igbuka. I kind of like the later receivers a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Like Igbuka, I kind of said I like that long as a long tier. I like Igbuka near the middle to the back end of that tier instead of at the front of it. Like, and that entire tier to me is completely flipped and backwards. Like I think Rome should be higher. I think that Devontae Adams should probably like I know why Adams is falling. Like, and it's all based on are they going to take a receiver? But like, I don't know about Jameson Williams. Devonta Smith, like Terry McLaurin should go a lot higher, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm having a hard time clicking on. My problem is I take Loveland at an 18% clip.
That might not be a problem. That might be a really good thing.
So we had this talk yesterday with Goofy Chicken. He asked me, who do I think will play in the Amon role? And I said, I think it'll be Colson Loveland, if anybody. I think that if they're going to put somebody in that role, I don't think it's going to be Luther Burden. I think the one that they're going to move around the offense and scheme up the touches is going to be Colson Loveland. And I think we've seen elements of that in the playoffs last year.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I generally think it's going to be all three. I really do.
I think it'll be a mix, and I think that all three of them are going to spike and spike heavy. I think it's going to be like, so going into last year, a reporter asked him, was asking Joe Burrow about what he does he always target Jamar Chase or whatever? He's like, no, some weeks we know that T. Higgins is going to be the guy with the better coverage the whole game, and we design our whole offense around that player.
Yeah.
That's what Ben Johnson's going to do.
Absolutely.
So whatever team, you don't want to, if you believe in the Bears, you don't want to full fade any of their pieces, because it's all about what happens in those playoff weeks. And I do think that taking two of them, I like taking Loveland with a Swift or with a Rome or with a Burden if you can get it, because I think that one of those pieces could be what you need in the finals, and I think that you may need a different piece to get you there.
Yeah.
But the Bucks are kind of similar to that too. I think that Baker can lock on to people, but for the most part, I feel pretty good about the receivers and not the tight end. Although Otten's so cheap that why not?
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree. I think Mbuka is just priced too high. I think he's got a higher because like we talked about, this is a very boom bust offense. If the offense booms, then Mbuka could really pay off.
Yeah.
But my problem is, with there being such a big when I see these receiver rooms that have such a big gap, I want it to know, I want it to make sense as to why. When I see such a massive gap between Mbuka and Chris Godwin, I don't know why. Because Chris Godwin historically has been a great receiver. And now he's 2 years removed from injury and stuff like that. So
I have 12%
I don't know if
of
it
one
should
of
be a
those.
60 spot ADP gap.
No, there shouldn't. And I have a 12% clip of one of them, and I have a 4% of the other.
Yeah.
McMillan's the one I can't I can't get to because of the structures I'm building.
Yeah.
I'm generally chasing my second or third quarterback there, or my first side end. So I've it's not that I dislike McMillan. It's that the way I'm building doesn't really, the way I'm personally building, it doesn't feel correct. But anything else you want to touch on before we head out?
No, I think, we, the main thesis of this is try and avoid bad offenses at high cost. And this is not to say I only have 2% of the Jets. That's fine if you want to be more than that, but I would just hesitate being overweight on those types of guys. If you want to be at the field or 1 or 2% above, but I think I have a tough time seeing 20% Breece Hall being a winning strategy.
Right. I've been saying that I'm kind of in on the Jets being a better team, right? I've got 8.4% Garrett Wilson and 7.9% Breece Hall, because I agree that it's not a bet that's very, very I don't see it being they're a top 15 offense now.
Yeah.
I think that we're a 22nd offense now, and we just happen to spike a few more times. And I think that I also am a believer that defense is going to be really, really bad. And I think that I think they could be the Arizona from last year.
Yeah, maybe.
That's just kind of where I'm at. And I think that, they only have 2 weapons right now, right? They're going to add somebody, but if they're just chucking the ball every single time they drop back, every play, they're either going to go 3 and out, but if the offense is a little better, just a little better, they'll end up scoring some points in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have complete implosion risk with Aaron Glenn getting fired by week 4.
Yeah.
Which could actually be a benefit, kind of like with Tennessee from last year.
Maybe, but that just probably means more power for Frank Wright, and it didn't go well last time Frank Wright was in control of the team.
Absolutely not. And I think that's actually why they brought him in, but we'll see about that.
Mm-hmm.
And Mason Taylor could be fine. Yeah, Like, but he goes at the very end of the draft. Like Steve's point is that these other two players are going at the back end of the third round. Like, and they should go like one of them going there would make more sense than both of them.
I'd feel better about it then, you know.
And I know you're a little lower on the Brees side. I think if one of them should be lower, I think it's Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why is because just of how much running backs are pushed up this year.
Yeah, I mean that part's valid. I guess it's to me like Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, I think, has a much higher floor than Brees Hall. Like Brees Hall finishing RB20 last year is problematic for me.
Right, but like this is a spike week game, and Brees Hall has had those big spikes.
Yeah, I guess like not as consistent because he's not a big touchdown guy. Like,
yeah, and like with Aaron Glenn last year, the one thing that they continually said is they wanted to run a committee.
And, I know, and that I do worry about.
And that is something that like I don't think people are remembering that they were fully in on. Oh yeah, it's going to be a committee, and then Braylon got hurt, and then they just stopped doing the committee.
Yeah.
So. Like that is, I think Isaiah Davis ended up hurt several of those games too, like early on. And then I can't remember. Did Isaiah Davis get hurt last year?
I'm trying to remember, but I just also think, you know, Jets have a ton of draft picks. Like, again, not like a first or second or even a third round, but, you know, if they bring in somebody, it could even be a more murky committee.
Yeah, he did not. He played 16 games. Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
I put your information down in the description below. I didn't do any like promoting today. We were just kind of vibing, talking. It was good. I'm going to be back on in 3 hours with Al Boogie. We're going to draft my final 2 big board teams. I have 2 left. We're going to draft the final 2. It'll be a Who's Crew episode. Al Boogs got 11th 2 years ago in BBM. So shout out to that. And go ahead and tell everybody what you have going on.
Yeah, you can obviously always find me on the FanSpeak Network. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern. You know, should still be doing big board then. And then later, Meg's going to probably join me to do some golf because it's Masters week. Thursday, I'm probably taking off because of Masters. And then I'll be back on Friday. And who knows what I'll be doing because big board could be closed by then.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. We will be back next week. See y'all later. Peace.
Hey, we're grinding through the torment. High volume, no management. Taming souls indecent. Drafts through the abyss, no rest in our veins. Feel striking like lightning, flooding endless pains. From late season voids, he's dropping all the flames. Best ball, legions unite, shattering the chains. Old school RB stacking fury, derailing trendy trains. Who must command in the storm, etched in our brains? Who hangs? Thunder in the names, claiming all the kills. Flames, names, games. Legion, wrath of views, stone age, torment remains. Best ball eternal, in remains, infernal domain. Pterodactyl pigs, screaming, came in chaos reigns. Fossil fury fuels the fire.